Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And tonight we are joined by two great guests, Peter Malone Elliott and Alexander Sharp, whose movie Wired Shut is available now on Vudu for rent or purchase. It came out this past August. Am I correct, guys?
It came out in the UK previously. It's coming out in North America November 30th.
Okay, November 30th. So I did watch it. I'm trying to figure out how I watched it. I did not bootleg it. Okay, so I want to get that all
Wow,
cleared up. I don't
thank
bootleg.
God.
I
Goodness,
I
goodness.
I gave up bootlegging movies back in the '90s as a teenager. So anyway, welcome, guys. It's an honor to have you here. Now, both of you guys wrote this. You produced it. Alexander, you directed it. Before we get to the movie, I want to hear, and let's start with Peter first. How did you guys meet and start working together?
Yeah, sure. So we met in film school. We both went to Loyola Marymount in Los Angeles. We met our sophomore year through a mutual friend. We met in their dorm room, and I thought he looked like Paul Bettany. So I told him that he looked like Paul Bettany, and a friendship was struck.
Is that how you remember it, Alexander?
I remember it as if it were yesterday. I remember being in Blake Simon and Jared Seltzer's dorm room, and in walked Peter. And I thought, from my perspective, I thought I was looking at Justin Timberlake.
Please, please.
Peter has fun. Just one quick thing. Peter has had I don't know anymore.
Yes.
Enough sneakers to fill a bathtub at the
I
time.
did. I did. I had at that point in my life, I was dedicated myself to like having as many shoes as I possibly could have. So I had a rainbow pair of sneakers, I had a red pair of sneakers, I had a green pair of sneakers. It was great. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. The college life, gotta love it. Now, to Wired Shut. Now, this is like the first feature length film that both of you did, which was financed by GoFundMe. Is that accurate?
That
Partially,
is,
partially, yeah.
yeah, partially.
Now, that is becoming a really big trend, crowdfunding for movies and various types of entertainment. But there's a lot of work that goes into it. You know, you can't just start a campaign and then just wait for the money to start coming in. There's a lot of different projects that are going up for crowdfunding. So you got to get out there, you got to promote it, you got to let people know what they're giving their money to. What was the approach that you guys took? And let's go with Alexander on this one. What approach did you
Oh,
guys take to get the funding and market this campaign?
well, we had done it before. We had done a series. I had done a series of shorts through college, through film school, and all of which were crowdfunded on Indiegogo. And it kind of was just a process of trying and failing and trying again and getting a little bit more and trying again, getting a little bit more. I did, my junior thesis was a thriller, and I got $5,000 to do that. My senior thesis was it was an attempt at a comedy. I don't know. I tried.
I thought
I
it was fun.
tried.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and we got a little bit more to do that, and then Peter and I ended up, after coming out of LMU and graduating, we did a short film called Ziggy's Will,
Mm-hmm.
which went through Cannes and Manchester and Washington and a couple other places in LA, and so we had a real pretty penny for that one, and we knew what we were doing in some sense, and we had kind of cultivated a following. I think it's very difficult
Oh,
if
yeah.
you are. I mean, you're right. I mean, if you just go, if your expectation is, I'm just going to go online and start a video and tell them about the movie I want to make. I mean,
No, you're not going to have
it's
much luck.
it's tough. It's tough.
Now, so Peter, you guys got money partially from the crowdfunding. When the movie was filmed, put together, at which point did you guys get distribution?
So it was a long, the entire film was a long process. So I wrote the script in late 2018. We shot it in March of 2019. We finished post production a year later in March 2020, right as the pandemic hit. So the timing was fantastic. It was
Yeah.
really good. And then we sold it to 101 Films, the distributor. I want to say, Alex, in April of this year. April, does that sound about right? March, April, February,
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
yeah, in the spring, yeah.
Yeah,
Did you,
somewhere around there.
did you
Yeah.
guys go through the film festival circuit, or was this not in?
We applied to some, but ultimately how this worked was we had a great sales agency on board to shop it to distributors, and so MPX was our sales agency, and they took it to a bunch of distributors, and 101 ended up being the one that we went with.
Oh,
So
awesome. Now, Peter.
The
Oh, go on.
sorry,
No, go on.
The idea was to go to festivals initially. Peter, and as I said, we had done a lot of shorts, and every single time it's like, come see Ziggy's Will on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. in short film block C.
yeah,
In a series of 7 short films in sequence. I mean, it's like, who comes to that stuff? You know what I mean? So it wasn't out of spite, but it was, in order to be taken seriously, we wanted to do a feature, because it was like Friday night, Peter and Alex, 7 p.m., main auditorium, debut feature film. Mm-hmm. So we were like, we got to do a feature. Yeah. I mean, and so, and then COVID happened, and then we kind of
had to recalibrate.
Oh, yeah.
We landed distribution instead.
Exactly. Yeah. And the whole industry is still undergoing a change with COVID. Now, Peter, you have quite a few acting credits. Now, when you got out of college, was your intent to solely be an actor, and then you got into writing and doing more behind the camera work? Or was
No, quite the opposite, actually. I've always known it was going to be writing. I did acting. I kind of fell into, I don't act anymore, but I did acting for a little while, and I fell into it because I had a writing teacher that told me that, very wisely said that all writers should take an acting class at least once, to get a handle on dialogue and how to talk to actors and blah, blah, blah. And I ended up really liking it. So I pursued that for a few years, 3-4 years, and we did our short film together, which I was the lead in, which was a lot of fun for me. And I did a play that I was the lead of that I got produced back in LA. But I ultimately decided that I wanted to focus exclusively on writing. Yeah.
Awesome. And now for Alexander, you're the director of Wired Shut. I assume that was, predetermined before you guys, even while you were writing the script. What, out of college, what was your journey? What was your expectation? Did you want to be behind the camera directing? Is that where your passion was?
Yeah. I was one of those kids on the kids with a camera. I mean, I was one of those kids with a camera who, would invite their high school friends after class to shoot shoot 'em up things on the street, and we'd cause a ruckus, and the neighbors would be seriously alarmed. And it's like, no, they're Nerf guns. It's no, I was always fascinated by, well, actually, that's not necessarily true. I should go back for a second. My sister, where it all started for me, certainly after college directing, yes. But my sister, I think, is to blame, because she always knew she wanted to be an actress. She's in the film. Mm-hmm. She plays Amy. And she started taking acting classes at a very early age with Michael Bublé's sister, actually, Crystal Bublé.
Wow.
Very talented actress. Yeah. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was convinced I should be doing archaeology because I watched Indiana Jones.
A few too many times, probably.
Yeah, probably just a couple. And so I just decided to go along with it. So I did a little bit of acting like Peter. I think we share that. I don't know. It was fun and it was cool, but and then it was about making short films so that I could act in them. and play, my version of James Bond at the age of 13. And then it was like, oh my God, I actually like composing covering a scene and figuring that out. And then I started looking up directing, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to direct. And then I went.
Nice. Now, you guys both being in college together and then graduating, getting into the real world, and you guys start doing these short films. Peter, how valuable was the education as opposed to on the job experience when you guys finish college and you're out there and you're making these shorts professionally and then eventually leading to full feature films?
So sorry, just to clarify, you're asking me
The difference between, I mean, the education, the classroom, as opposed to being on the field, getting set experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was a screenwriting major at LMU, so a lot of my classes were, classroom based writing, writers, rounds tables, workshopping, etc. So my on-set experience in college was somewhat limited. I mean, we had to do some production work as a screenwriting, but it was mostly writing for obvious reasons. So I didn't have a lot to compare it to when I got out of school, and then I started acting and doing shorts and doing commercials and whatnot and going on auditions, and I saw that as valuable as it is to learn about the art and craft, the baby goes out with the bathwater once you're out in the real world, and you have to adapt and use everything that you've learned in a completely pressure cooker scenario that school that you don't always learn in school. So doing shorts was before Wired Shut was a really valuable experience. And I think I won't speak for Alex, but I learned a lot about how to write for actors and how to be an effective person on set through shorts before we got to Wired Shut.
Nice. Now, Alexander, is it okay if I call you Alex or you Alexander?
Please do.
Okay. Because
you sound like my father if you call me.
Yeah, my brain just goes to Alex. Now, Alex, the movie's coming out what date exactly again? November what?
30th.
30th, at the end of the month. Now, for people that are watching this and are hearing about Wired Shut for the first time, in your own words, describe what Wired Shut is about.
Ooh.
Oh, wow. I feel like this is going to be interesting because I'm going to be looking at Peter the whole time to make sure he's not going to
don't mess this up.
Yeah, I know. Well, Wired Shut is a home invasion. It's a through and through home invasion thriller. It follows a notoriously washed up, previously plumed novelist. His wife hates him and has divorced him. His daughter hates him. He has been excommunicated from society back to his mountaintop $15 million treehouse. And so, and to boot, his jaw is wired shut and he has to drink his dinners through a straw.
That's because he's recuperating from surgery.
That's correct. Prior to the film's opening, he gets into a car accident. And lo and behold, one evening, his estranged daughter shows up on his doorstep for no conceivable reason. And things sinisterly unfold from there.
Spiral out of control. Very well said. That's pretty good. Peter, do you like that?
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
That was unrehearsed.
No, it was spot on. Now, Peter, you guys both had a hand in writing this. Now, if we look it up on IMDb, it says from one of you story by, and then the other one says screenplay by or something like that. So, Peter, explain to us how the writing process worked between you two guys.
Yeah, so I wrote the script and Alex and I developed the story together. So basically what we did with this is we kind of reverse engineered the movie because we knew we wanted to make a feature, but we knew it had to be, very few locations, it had to be contained. We had to do it for not a lot of money. and what could we conceivably do with the elements that we had that would be an interesting story. We both love the home invasion thriller, genre, and the idea kind of came to me when someone in my life had the surgery that Reed has in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this person go through this, like, well, wait a minute, what would that be like, but put in the most just absolutely dangerous circumstances possible? Like, what if you needed to talk but you couldn't, and your life depended on that fact?
Wow.
And then it kind of just snowballed from there. So we worked on the story together, and then I wrote the script in about a month, over the course of November 2018. And then we kind of was off to the races. Yeah.
Nice. So, Alex, when it came time to casting, did the pieces for the cast fall into place rather easily, or did you guys have to go through a pretty extensive process to pick the cast?
We didn't have that much time. By the time we knew that I had said to Peter, fantastic. I love the idea. Let's do it. And we had no idea what we were doing. Absolutely no clue. And we wrote the script, and it was, achievable. It was one location and 3 characters. And that was December of 2018. And then the location sort of magically, through a couple of connections, it sort of surfaced. And we were like, we have a 2-week window in March, which is a couple months away, to shoot.
Oh, wow.
Because we were trying to shoot.
And all we had was a script.
Yeah.
And so we were like, do we do this now, or do we kind of take our time and maybe spend a year, shaping it, and we just said, you know what, it's now or never. No, casting went very quickly. It was Natalie was written in to the script as Emmy. Reed and Preston were cast pretty quickly. We didn't have a lot of. We had self tapes come in, and we did our due diligence of looking through casting workbook and all the casting websites. And it starts with the headshots, and then it goes to the reels, and then it's bringing them in. But I'll tell you what, as soon as Peter and I saw Blake Stadel as Reed, and as soon, especially the great Betash Fazlali as Preston, we cast them pretty much right away.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Peter, of course, doing any kind of medium to low budget film, everybody has to do more. This is not a studio film where you have a crew of 300 to 500 people. You have PAs their job is to wave a flag or something like that, and everybody has to wear multiple hats.
Yes.
Explain to the people how much hard work is involved to put together a medium, low budget film, but yet, bring your vision and Alex's vision to life. Explain to us how hard that is.
It's very hard. So, as you said, usually a production, there's multiple production companies, there's the studio, there's a large phalanx of people to do everything. With this, Alex and I did all of the producing and line producing and budgeting and filling out the forms and getting the insurance and getting the props. We did all that ourselves. And then when we were shooting, we had Alex, it was a 12-person crew, right? 12-person? 10-person?
Yeah, 12 to 14, I think.
14. Yeah. So, even then, it was super skeletal, down to the bone. Everybody was doing about 3 or 4 different jobs. I was, in addition to being writer, producer, I was script supervisor, I was a costume supervisor, I was helping out with Crafty, I was helping out, getting the actors from their dressing rooms, getting them to the set. Everybody was doing everything. And it's something that it's not for the faint of heart, but if you can do it, it is an incredible learning experience. I have such respect
And also
for,
very rewarding.
yes, very rewarding. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have such a respect for producers now that I had no idea. I hope I never have to fill out another piece of insurance paperwork ever again, because I did enough for a lifetime.
Now, Alex, you know, producer in the motion picture television industry is the one job role that has the largest umbrella. Basically, anybody that does something to help in the contribution of the film is, in a way producing it. Um, would you say producing versus directing, moving forward in your career, uh, do you want to strictly stay with directing, or do you want to do some more producing? Because like I said, it gives you basically everything. You can do everything and fall under the umbrella of a producer. So is that something you want to pursue as your career moves on, or would you like to stick more to just directing?
I think I'm. That's a good question. That's a very good question. I don't. I think I'm too. I think my interest comes from uh, my entryway into it is how to tell a story. Are we? When I read a script and the pictures that I have in my head when I read a script
Mm-hmm.
and the ideas that come about. And now are we going to play a scene in a wide entirely, or are we going to go in for coverage for the close-ups? What does the house sound like? What is I'm more fascinated by
You definitely have a director's brain.
I'm trying. Basically, what I'm saying, Viz, is I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
No, I have a lot of respect for producers, and um, I probably would do it eventually. I'm writing this other horror right now, and we were saying that my co-writer and I, we were like, this is kind of like a great segue as a film into a television series, and we were kind of just fantasizing like, oh my god, if we sell this thing, like we could be showrunners, and we let other people direct it,
like what happened with Child's Play into Chucky the TV series now.
Exactly.
That's
So
awesome.
I mean, I think it would be fun to do, but I don't think you're ever going to be able to rip a camera out of my hands. It's in my marrow.
Yeah, it's in your blood. Now, Peter, since you both have acting experience, Peter, aren't you in this movie as well? You have a couple of scenes, or no?
No, I'm not. No.
As an actor, how difficult is it? Now, this is for the both of you to not jump in and do a couple of scenes. Do you find the urge inside you to, write a role for yourself with Wired Shut?
Maybe initially when I was still kind of pursuing acting, maybe I was thinking about it a little bit, but no, I honestly, John, the acting bug has completely left my body.
Okay.
It's really interests me anymore. So no.
Which is a real shame because he's quite good, and I maintain that just for the record.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, never say never, but I don't foresee me pursuing that again anytime soon.
Okay, that's fair enough. Now, Alex, I've had a lot of directors tell me that 70% of directing is casting. Now, are you the kind of director that once you cast, you sort of let the actors do their thing with your direction, of course? Or are you the director that really wants to walk them through frame by frame of every scene? I should probably ask this to Peter. He'll put, a more objective answer.
You're going to get something a little bit more objective. Firstly, if that's true, I agree with that. I think. What did you say? 75%.
75% is casting.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. Actors solve so many problems for you, you know. But I'm not terribly interested in, and this goes into the 75%. I'm not terribly interested in the David O. Russell approach of we're going to light a scene from the ceiling, put the camera on a steady cam, and you guys just do stuff and we'll follow you around and we'll cut it together later. I come from the you know, I'm interested in telling the story the way it should be told, not whether or not you had a bad hair day and you want to be this side today. It's like
you and I don't have that problem.
No, we don't. No.
Now, Peter, I'm going to ask this to both of you. I'm going to start with Peter. Coming out of this film, when it's all said and done with, what would you say was the biggest challenge to Wired Shut?
Well, I kind of screwed us in the sense that I wrote a movie that took place basically all at night, and we had to do very, very long night shoots. So each day was 12 hours, and it was from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Wow.
You know, the first night or two, the adrenaline's gone. It's like, all right, yeah, we're good. Woo-woo. And then like the third or fourth night, the eyes are droopy. It's like, oh my God. So it was definitely a bit of an endurance run. But I mean, that said, it was just an incredible experience. I wouldn't take back or redo any of it. You know, it was just wonderful.
Now, Alex, as director, what was the biggest challenge that you had to face doing Wired Shut?
It's fun. Is it boring if I say also staying up all night?
No, not at all. I mean, in fact, if that was the biggest challenge that you guys had to face, it sounds like you guys had a pretty smooth shoot.
Well, it was the most memorable challenge.
Yeah.
It was the most memorable challenge. It was both of our first feature films.
Yeah.
And no matter how you approach, I think, your first feature, even if you've done a series of shorts, the thing that really was disorienting for me was the sheer length of these shoots. I had never really shot a short beyond, 3 days or, 2 weekends with a week in between where I could just, because that was film school, right?
Yeah.
Shot on the weekend. But this was 2 weeks back to back, and coupled with everything is not chronological. So, I mean, you go. I mean, day one, Peter, we shot the middle of the script, and then day 2 we shot the final scene of the script, and then day 3 we went back to the beginning of the movie.
No.
So it's. I mean, that was quite. It was like you have to kind of like remember where you are in the story.
Now tell us, Alex, for Wired Shut in particular, why did you shoot it out of sequence?
Well, boringly, it's about efficiency, and so we have this house, we have the script. In just about any house, you've got everything you need in this script that's about a house. You've got Reed's office. You've got a room for his bedroom. You've got a kitchen of some sorts. And so you break up the script and block it all together based on location. So one day would be solely in Emmy's guest room.
Mm-hmm.
One day would be solely in the kitchen. One day would be solely in Reed's office. So that you don't have to
keep
go
moving
back
stuff
and
yeah. Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and something else just to kind of add to that. I mean, we both got really lucky because we did. I mean, shooting a feature film in 12 days is just objectively insane. There's a lot of ground to cover, and we wouldn't have been able to do that if our 3 actors weren't just ready to rock and roll. I mean, we did a lot of pages every day, and Natalie and Blake and Baytash just were ready to rock and roll as soon as we hit the ground.
Nice.
And they delivered performances that are incredible, but they were also so ready. We didn't have to do a lot of takes and draw things out of them, which if we had, I don't know if we would have been able to finish the movie in time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, I asked Alex to give us the synopsis earlier of the film, which he did wonderfully. Now, Peter, I'm going to ask you, when we get to the horror elements of Wired Shut, what should the audience expect? Are we talking about psychological? Are we talking about blood and gore? Or are we talking a mix of both?
It's definitely a psychological type of thing. I would say for your viewers, the first two acts are a slow burn psychological thriller, and then the third act into the climax is when things really, really start to ramp up and the pacing gets much more quick.
Okay.
Probably what I would say. Yeah.
Now, this goes for both of you, but Peter, I'm going to ask you, are you both lifelong horror fans? Do you particularly enjoy, are you fans of horror? Or did this script fall into place and the horror elements just worked best?
I love psychological thrillers with a little bit of horror in them. I think things like Misery, things like a big influence for us was Cape Fear. That
Mm.
movie, which is it's a
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro, the Scorsese remake. Yeah, and it's a psychological thriller, but with horror in there, and so kind of that perfect blend of the two. So those were two big influences that we were looking at in terms of the type of horror that we wanted to do.
Now, Alex, when while directing, what did you draw on any prior horror films? Like Peter just said, it's a psychological thriller. Did you draw on any, of your favorite psychological thrillers from the past to help you direct this?
I would say, well, Peter and I saw Cape Fear together at the same time for the first time. And it was at that moment that we turned to each other and said, "Oh my God." And it hadn't occurred to me that, I don't know why, but it hadn't occurred to me that you could just have the final, it didn't occur to me that you could do a family drama that became a psychological thriller. And then for the final 30 minutes, be pure, sensationalistic, sadistic, psychological and physical violence with a maniac that's gone off the deep end, and there's no real more story. It didn't occur to me for whatever reason, and it was that kind of just a little bit of an over the top villain, for fun. It's not like so realistic but it's also not completely laughable. It's kind of the balance of Max Cady or even, dare I say, the Joker. It's one of those guys who you are terrified of, but you can't wait to see him again because he's just so deliciously evil.
The trick balancing it being super heightened and stylized like the Cape Fear type Max Cady thing, but also not have it devolve into being a mustache twirling supervillain.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
But there are I certainly was on set shooting, and I was, this kind of feels a little bit like Saw, and this kind of feels a little bit like Misery, and I didn't want to do. I am a fan of horror, just to say, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to do a gore-filled splatter fest just for the sake of doing it. I wanted to tell a story, as Peter did, about a father and a daughter, and I wanted to start there, and I wanted to set the playing board, and then I wanted to take a baseball bat to the board itself and have everything go crazy. So it kind of, I hope it's a lot of things, but I don't know that it's through and through horror.
Okay. Now, there's not a lot of dialogue in Wired Shut because, like you just said, the character is recuperating from surgery. His jaw is wired shut while he recuperates. So that leaves the actors, and you as a director having to work with movement and visually setting up each scene. Having little dialogue, would you say that is helpful, hurtful from a filmmaker's point of view?
Like, I think Taylor Sheridan, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he said he's allergic to exposition.
Yeah.
I loved when Peter told me. I love telling the story with images. I love silence. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's beautiful. Not to say that I don't appreciate and equally adore, the work of the likes of Aaron Sorkin, where it's just like Gatling gun verbally. But what really moves me is cinematic silence and how to tell the challenge of how to tell a story visually in sort of tableau frames. And it's like, if you can, I think the best movies are ones that you can mute them and still understand what's going on. That's my personal opinion.
In fact,
and
I was just going to say, I had a guest like last week who said, for any director, you would recommend go back and watch every film from the silent film era.
Yeah.
Because you can tell a story with absolutely no words, and it's all body movement and the cinematography itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big challenge for me because I love dialogue. So
says the writer.
we were like this the whole time, John. We were.
No, it was a challenge approaching a story that by the hook, conceptual hook, there wasn't going to be a lot of dialogue, and it was one that I was initially reluctant and kind of scared about a little bit. But then I really started to embrace it and lean into it. I mean, I think in the film there's 5 or 6 scenes with substantial dialogue. I mean, and one of them is I can't talk about it without giving it away. But there's a scene where there's a long monologue, and that's like 40%, 50% of the film's dialogue. So it was a lot of fun doing a movie with not a lot of dialogue, and it really taught me the importance of silence, like Alex was saying, and that a really well-crafted moment of cinematic silence can do wonders and say something and communicate something better than great dialogue could sometimes.
I totally agree. Now, Peter, you guys, when you guys started Principal Photography, of course you had the script in hand. Did you guys adjust in the moment when you were there and you were actually shooting and you had the script, and then it came time to shoot a particular scene, and Peter, you turned to Alex, or Alex turned to Peter and said, you know what, the way we have this on paper just doesn't feel right anymore, and let's make a little bit of a change. Did that ever happen, Peter?
No, I was like Aaron Sorkin. You have to say it exactly the way I wrote it. No. No, yeah. I mean, there was definitely a couple of scenes where we had to tweak some things because just some dialogue wasn't quite working. There were a couple of moments that didn't quite exactly work. And we had to think on our feet. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the beauty of filmmaking, right? Is you have to be able to adapt and constantly evolve.
Yeah,
and the script is a living organism. It's not. I love novels, and I just finished writing one, but a script is not a novel.
No.
It's something that's meant to be built upon.
Exactly.
And, yeah. So
yeah. Alex, in the post-production phase, was it the both of you going there and going through the whole post-production? Was it just mainly you, Alex? Who was there in post-production?
Peter popped his head in from time to time,
yeah.
just to make sure.
Well, Peter did point at you, saying that you're the one that pretty much did it.
Oh, did he just now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had. I mean, I'm in Vancouver. Peter's in LA, now New York. But I did an assembly cut from my desk, just over there. I sent it off to my co-editor and filmmaking partner, Blake Simon, who did the second cut. My sound designer, Greg Summers, who did a fabulous job giving the house a character, is over in White Rock in British Columbia. I mean, it was all kind of mostly here. And it wasn't until, I mean, Peter, it wasn't really until I came down to LA to do visual effects at Therapy with Jeff, where you really got to kind of enjoy it in its. Yeah. I mean, that we were at that point, we were, painting out the house, neighboring house outside, because we shot in a neighborhood and we needed to make it look like it was isolated. So almost every shot in the movie is a VFX shot because we got to go and get rid of houses that were next door.
Okay. Now, Alex, this is, like you said, your first feature film. You had done a lot of shorts beforehand. Did you have any butterflies when you started, principal photography? Did you get nervous? Did you psych yourself out about this being your first feature film?
I'd be lying to you if I told you I was not nervous. I absolutely was nervous. They were. I like how you said butterflies. When I was acting in high school, and I'll never forget it. My drama teacher in grade 12, Christina McAllister, would say to us, you should if you're serious about pursuing acting, you should always feel butterflies. When you're standing on the curtains just off stage left or right, you should you should feel butterflies before stepping on, because that's how you know you're good. It's when you don't feel butterflies. It's when you're not, somewhat unsure of what's going to happen. It's a if
I would say cocky, too cocky.
That's if you're so
arrogant,
an expert, then, and I think there's some truth to it. So I hope to always be challenging myself, and I hope to always be pushing myself, because I think it leads to the best work. I don't want to ever get comfortable and just sort of call action from a chair. I want to be in the van at 6 a.m. going out to see what location we might shoot at.
Nice. Now, Peter, moving beyond Wired Shut, as a writer, do you want to explore a lot of different genres in your writing, screenplays? Do you have a special affinity now that you did Wired Shut for horror? Where do you see yourself going in regards to your writing and genres in general?
Yeah. I mean, so the two genre boxes that I like to play in, whether it be a novel, a script, or a play, I like to write a lot of period historical stuff, and then I also love really gritty psychological thriller horrors. Those are kind of the two sandboxes I love to play in, and I would love to continue to keep doing those. They're the two types of films that I always love watching. So I want to put out more of them into the world.
And you want to challenge yourself, and I mean, I think the best things is just keep pushing your boundaries and just see how far you can go, and not pigeonhole yourself into a particular genre or whatnot. Is that something you definitely want to avoid? Like, let's just use horror, for example. 10 years down the road from now, do you want to be known as just a horror writer?
No. I mean, I'm happy to, in order to break into the industry, if I want to be, to break in, if I'm going to be known as the thriller horror guy and then branch out from there, that's fine. But in 10 years, no, I would like to have a more extensive body of work than just horror, just thriller, et cetera.
Exactly. Now, Alex, you touched on this earlier about, shorts to feature. Of course, it's a longer shoot, but tell the fans out there, what other differences is there from shooting a short that might be 2 to 5 to 10 minutes, maybe a little longer, to a movie that is 80, 90 plus minutes? Besides the number of days it takes to shoot, Is there really any other difference?
Um, for me, for me, there wasn't, and I don't. And I want to be careful by saying that. I, you know, we shot in one location, so we're not trying to shoot downtown and a beach and then go out to the mountains and then get into a soundstage and shoot all these interiors and then try and make it look like it's all one movie,
Hmm.
because that's the hardest thing to imagine for me. That's tricky to answer because I was in one house for 2 weeks and it relatively looks the same, all the way through. I mean, when it's daytime, and when it's night. And so we had two looks for one for each. It really just was longer.
Okay.
I approached it the same way.
Now, Peter, when you were writing the script and it came to where you were describing the visual imagery that we see in the movie, in regards to some horror scenes, let's call it, were you very specific on how you wrote down each scene, especially in a movie where there's not that much dialogue?
Yes, yeah. The challenge of writing a movie like this, where there's not a lot of dialogue, is you have to the action descriptions that you have to write. They have to be incredibly lean and quick and snappy, but they have to be very all encompassing, and there has to be a lot of nuance in there. So it was quite a challenge doing that. In terms of I can't really talk about the climax of the movie.
No,
That's
no, 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 yeah.
there's a very specific moment that I was probably one of the harder visual things I've ever written in terms of how to communicate on the page what it was going to look like, because I wanted Alex and whoever else read the script, I wanted it to be an experience, right, and not just a blueprint for to build a house, right. I wanted the reader to experience the pain of the climax and the terror of that climax. So it was really about kind of milking the language for all it was worth, without it coming across as like novelistic. It was
Okay.
about
Now, how receptive would you say Alex was to how you wrote the words on the page and him transforming them into visual motion picture?
I don't
Be
know.
nice.
Let's pretend he's not here.
No, I'll.
You just take a laugh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can say in all honesty, the movie wouldn't be what it is without Alex. I mean, Alex, I am so lucky to have a creative partner like him that
Hmm.
so in my brain and knows how to execute exactly what I'm thinking, and not only execute it excellently, but elevate it and make it so much better than I thought it ever could be. So I'm forever in his debt.
You can't get a better compliment than that, Alex.
I'm gonna take it.
You're gonna take it. Now, this to both of you. Was there any symbolic significance that you guys placed into Reed because he was unable to speak? Uh, Anything that is symbolic to him that we sort of see throughout the film, or see bits here and there that is significant to Reed's character.
Yeah, I mean, from a writing standpoint, I mean, the as Alex kind of mentioned earlier, I mean, the heart of the story is the father daughter trying to desperately reconnect and not being able to, and then that's the nugget within the genre trappings, right? And the fact that he wants to connect with his daughter so much, but he physically can't and emotionally isn't equipped yet quite to, but he wants to. That's the push pull that I think is the kind of the emotional engine of the movie, I think, from a writing standpoint.
Absolutely.
And not only that, he wants to reconnect, and he wants to. What Reed really wants in the movie is all he wants to do is apologize to his daughter
Hmm.
for the past. That's all he wants to do, and as Peter said, he physically cannot. So what does he decide to do? He decides to return to what he knows how to do in his marrow, deep within he's going to write her a letter instead.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do Peter and I do? We give him writer's block.
That's so
Severely
neat.
crippling writer's block.
That is so neat. But it plays so well for the film. Now, we're all pretty much out of time, but I want to ask you before we go. I'm going to start with Alex, okay? We're 13 days away from premiere, all right? Your first feature film. What are you feeling right now?
I am so excited. I have a bottle of Joseph Phelps 2016 Cabernet Sauvignon ready to go. And I'm going to crack that open on the night of.
Awesome.
Ooh.
Peter?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I mean, I don't think it's quite sunk in yet. I don't know if it really will until I'm able to turn on my TV and go to Amazon Prime and see it up there and like, wow, that's something I wrote that people could see. Oh my God. I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic. I need to get a really good bottle of bourbon to crack open on the 30th. So, but yeah, Alex, thank you.
No, the website that I usually go to if there's a movie that I want to see it and see where it's streaming, this website Just Watch, it has the movie only being available on Vudu. Can you guys clarify where can people go to watch Wired Shut starting on November 30th? Alex?
Easiest place to go is Amazon Prime.
Okay.
You can rent it or buy it if you like it that much.
Awesome.
It'll all be on iTunes and other platforms like that.
So all the the major transactional video on demand services.
Yeah.
You guys did a great job with this film in writing it, directing it, putting it together. I think it's a great story. It was done. Alex, I really got to tip my hat. I mean, you did a great job with the limited dialogue and the way that you portrayed everything through the visual images, the body movement. It's great. Peter, you put together a great story. Both of you did a great job producing this film. For all our viewers, the movie is called Wired Shut, and it is coming out November 30th, just 13 days away. Highly recommend you guys watch it. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Alex. Starting with Peter to Alex, you have any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
Thank you for having us, John. And everybody watching this, I hope you watch the movie and enjoy it.
Alex?
John, great haircut.
Oh, I love it. I don't know why people hide baldness.
I know, and I haven't paid for a haircut in years.
Oh, I just wish it would stop this growing, these little patches.
I know.
I hate shaving. I hate it. I want to thank you guys. This hour just flew by. This has been such a fun interview. Again, to our audience, the movie's called Wired Shut, coming out November 30th on your retailer of choice. Amazon Prime is the easiest. You can also get it on Vudu and other places. Thank you to Peter Malone Elliott, to Alexander Sharp. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. Until next time, on behalf of Peter and Alex and myself, stay safe, guys, and always stay walking. Good night.